Sarah Martinez had always considered herself a dog person, but nothing could have prepared her for the emotional journey that awaited her at the local animal shelter on that crisp October morning. The golden retriever mix sat quietly in the corner of her kennel, different from the other dogs who barked and jumped for attention. This particular dog, later named Luna, clutched a worn blue blanket between her teeth, her amber eyes holding a depth of sadness that spoke volumes about her past. The shelter volunteer, Janet, approached Sarah with a gentle smile. "That's Luna," she explained, her voice carrying the weight of countless stories. "She came to us 3 weeks ago from a hoarding situation. The conditions were terrible, but somehow Luna managed to keep this blanket with her through everything. The rescue team said she wouldn't let go of it, even during the medical examination." Sarah crouched down beside the kennel, studying Luna's behavior. The dog's maternal instincts were immediately apparent. She positioned the blanket carefully beneath her, then curled around it protectively, as if shielding something precious from the world. Her movements were deliberate and tender, the kind of care typically reserved for newborn puppies. "Has she had puppies recently?" Sarah asked, noticing the way Luna's body curved naturally around the blanket. Janet shook her head sadly. "The vet estimates she's about 4 years old and has definitely given birth before, possibly multiple times. But there were no puppies with her when she was rescued. We think she may have lost a litter or they were separated from her. Sometimes dogs who've experienced trauma like this develop attachment behaviors with objects that remind them of their babies." The explanation hit Sarah like a wave. She had worked as a pediatric nurse for 15 years and had seen how children coped with loss through attachment to comfort objects. Witnessing the same behavior in Luna felt both heartbreaking and deeply familiar. The dog's careful positioning of the blanket, the way she would gently mouth it without damaging the fabric, the protective curve of her body around it. These were the actions of a mother caring for her young. As Sarah observed longer, she noticed other subtle behaviors. Luna would occasionally lift her head and look around the shelter with alert ears, as if checking for threats. When she was satisfied that the environment was safe, she would lower her head and give the blanket a gentle lick, the same way a mother dog would groom her puppies. The routine repeated every few minutes, a heartbreaking cycle of protection and care directed toward an inanimate object that represented something far more significant. Other potential adopters had passed by Luna's kennel throughout the morning, but something about her quiet demeanor and unusual attachment seemed to deter them. Children pointed and giggled at the funny dog with the blanket, while adults whispered concerns about behavioral issues. Sarah understood their hesitation. Luna's behavior was unusual and might seem problematic to those unfamiliar with trauma responses in animals. But Sarah saw something different. She recognized resilience in Luna's gentle care of the blanket, a determination to preserve something meaningful despite losing everything else. The dog's maternal instincts hadn't been broken by trauma. Instead, they had found a new focus, a way to express love and protection, even in the absence of actual puppies. "Tell me about her medical condition," Sarah requested, still watching Luna's careful movements. "She's healthy overall," Janet replied, pulling out a folder. "Some minor malnutrition when she arrived, but she's gained weight steadily. The behavioral team has worked with her, and she's shown no aggression toward humans or other dogs. She's actually quite gentle and responsive to commands. The blanket attachment is her only unusual behavior, and honestly, it seems to provide her comfort rather than cause distress." Sarah made her decision in that moment. She had recently moved to a larger apartment with a private yard, partially motivated by her desire to adopt a dog. Her nursing schedule allowed for flexible hours, and she had experience helping both humans and animals work through emotional challenges. Luna needed someone who would understand and respect her coping mechanism rather than try to eliminate it. The adoption process took several hours, involving paperwork, reference checks, and a meet-and-greet session in the shelter's private room. Throughout the entire process, Luna kept her blanket nearby, carrying it carefully in her mouth when they moved between areas. Even during the brief medical check required before adoption, she kept one paw touching the blanket while the veterinarian examined her. Sarah learned that Luna had been found in a house with 37 other dogs, living in conditions that the animal control officer described as unimaginable. The owner had clearly been overwhelmed and unable to provide proper care, resulting in a situation where dogs competed for food, space, and basic survival. In such an environment, Luna's ability to keep and protect her blanket demonstrated remarkable determination and strength. The drive home was quiet, with Luna sitting calmly in the back seat, her precious blanket arranged carefully beside her. Sarah glanced in the rearview mirror periodically, noting how the dog's eyes never strayed far from her comfort object. Even in this new, uncertain environment, the blanket provided a sense of security and continuity. As they pulled into Sarah's driveway, Luna's ears perked up with interest, but she made no move to leave the blanket behind. Instead, she carefully gathered it in her mouth before stepping out of the car, ready to begin this new chapter of her life with the one constant that had carried her through her darkest days. Sarah realized she wasn't just adopting a dog. She was welcoming a survivor who had found a way to preserve her capacity for love and care, despite experiencing loss and trauma. Luna's relationship with her blanket wasn't a problem to be solved. It was a testament to resilience and the enduring power of maternal love, expressed in the most touching way possible. That first evening, as Luna settled into her new home, Sarah watched her carefully arrange the blanket in a sunny corner of the living room, then curl around it with the same protective tenderness she had displayed at the shelter. It was clear that this blanket represented far more than a comfort object. It was Luna's way of keeping her maternal spirit alive, a bridge between her past loss and her capacity for future love. The first week in Sarah's home revealed the depth of Luna's attachment to her blanket and the intricate rituals that surrounded it. Each morning began the same way. Luna would wake before dawn, carefully check her blanket for any displacement during sleep, then begin what Sarah came to recognize as a morning inspection routine. The dog would systematically examine every corner of the fabric, sniffing gently and occasionally giving it small, tender licks. Sarah discovered that Luna had developed an elaborate system for blanket care. The dog somehow understood the difference between play and protection. She never tugged, chewed, or treated the blanket roughly like she might with toys. Instead, her interactions were consistently gentle, almost reverent. When moving the blanket from room to room, Luna would gather it carefully in her mouth, ensuring no part dragged on the floor where it might become soiled or damaged. The veterinarian, Dr. Rebecca Chen, visited for a home wellness check during Luna's second week. She had worked with trauma cases before, but found Luna's behavior particularly fascinating. "She's essentially mothering this blanket," Dr. Chen explained to Sarah. "Notice how she positions herself, always between the blanket and any potential threat, including us right now." Indeed, Luna had placed herself strategically between the veterinarian and her blanket, not aggressively, but with clear protective intent. Her body language remained friendly toward the humans, but her positioning never wavered. The blanket stayed safely behind her, partially hidden beneath her body. Dr. Chen conducted her examination with Luna's comfort in mind, allowing the dog to maintain visual contact with her blanket throughout the process. "Some people might think this behavior is unhealthy," she noted, "but Luna shows no signs of anxiety or distress related to the blanket. She's not possessive in a problematic way, she's nurturing." There's a significant difference. The distinction became clearer as Sarah observed Luna's daily routines. The dog had no difficulty leaving the blanket when necessary, for meals, walks, or bathroom breaks. She would simply ensure it was positioned safely before attending to other needs, then return to check on it afterward. This wasn't obsessive behavior, but rather the natural protective instincts of a mother taking care of her young. Neighbors began to notice Luna during their daily walks, always impressed by her calm demeanor and the careful way she would arrange her blanket in the yard before playing or exploring. Mrs. Henderson, who lived next door, initially expressed concern about the unusual behavior. "Is that normal?" she asked Sarah one afternoon, watching Luna gently reposition her blanket to catch the afternoon sun. Sarah had prepared for these questions. "Luna lost her puppies before I adopted her," she explained simply. "The blanket helps her cope with that loss. It's actually a sign of her emotional strength. She's found a healthy way to express her maternal instincts." The explanation transformed Mrs. Henderson's perspective entirely. Instead of viewing Luna's behavior as strange, she began to see it as touching evidence of a mother's enduring love. Word spread through the neighborhood, and Luna became something of a local celebrity, admired for her devotion and gentleness. Training sessions with Luna revealed her intelligence and eagerness to please, But they also highlighted the importance of accommodating her emotional needs. Sarah worked with a professional dog trainer, Maria Santos, who specialized in rescue animals with behavioral quirks. Maria immediately understood that Luna's blanket attachment wasn't something to eliminate, but rather to work around respectfully. "We'll incorporate the blanket into our training," Maria decided during their first session. "Luna needs to understand that following commands doesn't mean abandoning her comfort object. We'll teach her place commands that include safe positioning for her blanket." The training progressed beautifully. Luna learned to respond to commands while keeping her blanket secure, demonstrating remarkable focus and adaptability. She mastered complex behaviors like staying in place while Sarah moved around the house, but she always positioned herself where she could monitor her blanket's safety. Her intelligence shone through in how she balanced obedience training with her protective instincts. Sarah began documenting Luna's behaviors in a journal, partly out of curiosity and partly to track any changes over time. She noted that Luna had different blanket care routines depending on the weather, time of day, and activity level. On rainy days, the blanket was moved to the driest spots in the house. During sunny afternoons, it was carefully positioned to catch warm rays. Before bedtime, Luna would spend extra time arranging and rearranging the blanket until it met her exacting standards. The most touching observations involved Luna's response to visitors. When friends came to Sarah's home, Luna would initially gather her blanket and retreat to a safe distance, not hiding but simply ensuring her precious possession was protected. Once she determined that the visitors posed no threat, she would gradually bring the blanket closer, sometimes even allowing gentle admirers to observe her careful grooming rituals. Sarah's sister Jennifer visited for the first time 3 weeks after the adoption. She arrived skeptical about Luna's unusual attachment, worried that Sarah had taken on too much with a damaged dog. However, watching Luna's gentle, methodical care of her blanket completely changed Jennifer's perspective. "She's not damaged," Jennifer observed, tears forming in her eyes. "She's healing. Look at how much love she puts into caring for that blanket. A dog that can love like that isn't broken. She's just expressing it differently." The comment resonated deeply with Sarah, who had always believed in Luna's emotional resilience. The dog's ability to maintain such tender, consistent care despite her traumatic past demonstrated not weakness, but incredible strength. Luna had refused to let trauma destroy her capacity for love. Instead, she had found a way to channel that love into something positive and meaningful. As the first month of Luna's new life progressed, Sarah realized that she was witnessing something remarkable. Luna wasn't just a dog with an unusual attachment. She was a survivor who had transformed loss into love, trauma into tenderness. The blanket had become a symbol of hope, proof that even in the darkest circumstances, the instinct to nurture and protect could endure and flourish. Each day brought new revelations about Luna's character, her intelligence, and her remarkable capacity for love. The blanket that had initially seemed like a sign of damage was actually evidence of Luna's emotional depth and resilience. Sarah felt privileged to witness and support this beautiful expression of maternal devotion, understanding that she wasn't just providing a home for Luna, she was becoming part of an extraordinary story of healing and hope. 2 months into their life together, Sarah began to understand the sophisticated communication system Luna had developed around her blanket care. The dog had distinct vocalizations for different situations: a soft whimper when the blanket needed repositioning, a gentle whine when weather conditions threatened its safety, and a barely audible sigh of contentment when everything was arranged perfectly. These weren't demands for attention, but rather expressions of maternal concern that Sarah found deeply moving. The breakthrough in their relationship came during Luna's first thunderstorm in her new home. Sarah had been concerned about how the dog would handle the loud noises and atmospheric pressure changes, knowing that many rescued animals struggled with weather-related anxiety. As the storm approached, Luna's behavior became increasingly focused on her blanket's safety. Instead of seeking comfort for herself, Luna spent the storm's duration ensuring her blanket remained dry and secure. She moved it away from windows, positioned herself as a shield against any drafts, and maintained constant vigilance throughout the night. Sarah watched in amazement as Luna prioritized her blanket's well-being over her own comfort, never once seeking reassurance or showing signs of fear about the storm itself. "You're taking care of your baby," Sarah whispered during the worst of the thunder, and Luna's ears perked up at the words. For the first time since adoption, Luna made eye contact with Sarah while engaged in blanket care, as if acknowledging that Sarah understood the true nature of her devotion. This moment marked a turning point in their relationship. Luna began to include Sarah in her protective circle, occasionally allowing her to help with blanket positioning or weather-related moves. The trust was gradual and carefully given, but unmistakably real. Sarah felt honored to be accepted as an assistant in Luna's important work of caring for her precious charge. The local veterinary clinic became familiar with Luna's special needs when she required her first routine checkup since adoption. Sarah explained the blanket situation to the entire staff beforehand, ensuring everyone understood that Luna would need to keep her comfort object nearby throughout the visit. The clinic's response was overwhelmingly supportive, with several staff members commenting on the beauty of Luna's maternal devotion. Dr. Chen examined Luna while the blanket remained within sight, noting improvements in the dog's overall condition since adoption. "Her stress levels are remarkably low for a rescue animal," she observed. "The blanket isn't creating anxiety, it's preventing it. She has a healthy coping mechanism that's allowing her to thrive in her new environment." The vet visit also revealed Luna's remarkable intelligence regarding her blanket's care. When the examination table was wiped down with disinfectant, Luna immediately moved her blanket to a safer distance, somehow understanding that the chemicals posed a potential threat to the fabric. Her ability to assess and respond to environmental dangers specific to her blanket's well-being continued to amaze everyone who observed her. Sarah decided to research canine maternal behavior more thoroughly, wanting to better understand and support Luna's emotional needs. She discovered that dogs who lose litters often exhibit prolonged searching behaviors, depression, and sometimes complete withdrawal from social interaction. Luna's redirection of maternal energy toward the blanket actually represented a healthy, psychological adaptation that allowed her to maintain her sense of purpose and identity. Professional animal behaviorist Dr. Amanda Foster agreed to observe Luna and provide insights into her unique situation. During the consultation, Luna demonstrated her full range of blanket care behaviors while Dr. Foster took detailed notes. The session lasted 2 hours, during which Luna never once abandoned or neglected her precious charge. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Foster concluded. "Luna has essentially created a permanent maternal role for herself that provides emotional stability and purpose. She's not stuck in the past. She's actively engaging in nurturing behavior that fulfills her psychological needs. It's actually a brilliant adaptation to trauma." The validation from a professional behaviorist gave Sarah increased confidence in supporting Luna's unique approach to healing. She began making small accommodations that enhanced Luna's ability to care for her blanket, including providing a special washing routine for the fabric and creating multiple safe spaces throughout the house where Luna could position her charge comfortably. Winter's arrival brought new challenges and revealed additional aspects of Luna's protective instincts. The dog seemed to understand that cold weather posed specific risks to her blanket and developed warming strategies accordingly. She would move it to sunny spots during the day, position it near heating vents, and even use her own body heat to keep it warm during particularly cold nights. Sarah installed a small space heater in Luna's favorite corner of the living room, creating a consistently warm environment for blanket care. Luna's response to this accommodation was immediate and touching. She spent extra time that first day repositioning her blanket to take full advantage of the warmth, her tail wagging with what Sarah could only interpret as gratitude. The neighborhood children became fascinated with Luna's story, often asking Sarah to explain why the dog carried a blanket everywhere. These conversations became opportunities to teach empathy and understanding about different ways of coping with loss. Several children began bringing their own comfort objects when visiting, creating beautiful moments of connection with Luna, who seemed to recognize kindred spirits. One particularly memorable afternoon, 6-year-old Emma from down the street brought her stuffed rabbit to meet Luna. The little girl carefully placed her toy near Luna's blanket, explaining that her rabbit also needed to be kept safe and loved. Luna's response was remarkable. She gently sniffed the stuffed animal, then positioned herself protectively between both objects, accepting Emma's treasured possession into her circle of care. These interactions demonstrated Luna's capacity for expanding her protective instincts beyond her own blanket when circumstances warranted. She seemed to understand that other creatures might have their own precious objects requiring care and protection. Her maternal instincts, rather than being narrowly focused, actually encompassed a broader understanding of vulnerability and the need for gentleness. As autumn transitioned to winter, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey she and Luna had shared. The dog's unwavering devotion to her blanket had initially seemed like a symptom of trauma, but it had revealed itself to be something far more beautiful, a testament to the enduring power of love and the remarkable resilience of the maternal spirit. Luna had taught Sarah about the many forms that healing could take, the importance of honoring different coping mechanisms, and the profound depth of emotion that animals were capable of experiencing and expressing. The blanket that had once been a symbol of loss had become, in Luna's capable care, a symbol of hope, love, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her charge. Spring brought new opportunities for Luna to share her story with the wider community, and Sarah was amazed by the positive responses they encountered. The local dog park initially presented a challenge. Other dog owners weren't sure how to react to Luna's careful positioning of her blanket before engaging in play. However, once Sarah explained the background, the entire dynamic shifted from confusion to admiration. Luna developed a routine at the dog park that fascinated both humans and canines. She would arrive and immediately survey the area to identify the safest spot for her blanket, usually a bench or elevated surface away from the main play area. After ensuring her precious charge was secure, she would engage with other dogs but never strayed far enough to lose sight of her responsibility. Her playstyle was gentle and controlled, always maintaining awareness of her blanket's location. The other dogs seemed to sense something special about Luna's blanket. Several curious puppies would approach it, but Luna's body language clearly communicated boundaries without aggression. She would position herself between the blanket and any potential threats, using gentle but firm guidance to redirect overly interested canines. The remarkable thing was how quickly other dogs learned to respect these boundaries, as if they understood the blanket's significance. Mrs. Patterson, a regular at the dog park with her elderly beagle Winston, became particularly interested in Luna's story. She had lost her husband the previous year and found comfort in watching Luna's devoted care of her blanket. "She reminds me that love doesn't end just because loss happens," Mrs. Patterson told Sarah one afternoon. "She's found a way to keep loving, even when the original object of that love is gone." This observation sparked a deeper conversation about grief and healing that extended far beyond Luna's situation. Sarah realized that Luna's story was resonating with people who had experienced their own losses, offering them a different perspective on how to process and channel their emotions. The dog's visible devotion to her blanket served as a daily reminder that love could persist and even flourish in the face of loss. The local newspaper, the Riverside Community Herald, learned about Luna through Mrs. Patterson, who had suggested the story to her neighbor who worked as a reporter. Journalist Mark Thompson approached Sarah about featuring Luna in a human interest piece about unique animal behaviors and their meanings. Sarah agreed, hoping that sharing Luna's story might help other people understand and appreciate the different ways that both animals and humans cope with trauma. The interview took place in Sarah's backyard, with Luna demonstrating her blanket care routine naturally and without stress. Mark was immediately struck by the gentleness and consistency of Luna's behavior. "I've covered many animal stories over the years," he told Sarah, "but I've never seen devotion quite like this. It's almost spiritual in its consistency and care." Throughout the interview, Luna went about her normal activities, repositioning her blanket to follow the shade, conducting her periodic safety checks, and offering gentle grooming touches to the fabric. Mark photographed these behaviors respectfully, understanding that he was documenting something both beautiful and deeply personal. The article, titled "A Mother's Love Never Ends, Local Dog Teaches Community About Resilience," appeared on the front page of the lifestyle section and generated an unprecedented response. The newspaper office received dozens of calls and emails from readers who were touched by Luna's story. Many shared their own experiences with loss and the comfort objects that had helped them heal. Among the responses was a call from Dr. Sarah Williams, a grief counselor who worked with families who had lost children. She was interested in meeting Luna, believing that the dog's visible expression of maternal care might provide comfort and understanding for some of her clients. Sarah agreed to the meeting, recognizing the potential for Luna's story to help others in their healing journeys. The session took place at Dr. Williams's private practice, in a comfortable room designed for family therapy. Luna immediately assessed the space and positioned her blanket in a corner where she could monitor the entire room while keeping her charge safe. Dr. Williams observed Luna's behavior with professional interest and personal emotion. What strikes me most, Dr. Williams explained, is how Luna has found a way to continue being a mother despite her loss. Many of my clients struggle with their identity after losing a child. They wonder if they're still mothers if their children are gone. Luna demonstrates that motherhood is an action, not just a biological relationship. This perspective opened new avenues for understanding Luna's behavior and its potential therapeutic value. Dr. Williams began incorporating Luna's story into her work with clients, using the dog's example to illustrate that grief could be transformed into ongoing acts of love and care. Several families requested to meet Luna personally, finding comfort in witnessing her dedication firsthand. The spring months also brought an unexpected development. Luna began showing interest in a small stuffed animal that Sarah had purchased as a toy. Initially, Sarah worried that Luna might abandon her blanket in favor of the stuffed dog, but instead, Luna incorporated the toy into her existing care routine. She would position it near her blanket and extend her protective behavior to include both objects. This expansion of Luna's maternal circle suggested emotional growth and healing. She was demonstrating the ability to increase her capacity for care, rather than simply transferring it from one object to another. The stuffed animal received the same gentle treatment as the blanket: careful positioning, periodic grooming, and constant protection from potential harm. Veterinary behaviorist Dr. Foster returned to observe this new development and was thrilled by what she witnessed. "Luna is showing us that healing doesn't mean forgetting or replacing," she explained. "She's proving that the heart has infinite capacity for love and care." Adding the toy to her protective circle represents significant emotional progress. The community's response to Luna's expanding story continued to grow throughout the spring. Local schools invited Sarah and Luna to visit classrooms, where children learned about empathy, different forms of family, and the ways that both animals and people cope with difficult emotions. Luna's calm presence and visible devotion to her charges made abstract concepts tangible and understandable for young minds. During one particularly memorable school visit, a 7-year-old boy named Tommy raised his hand to ask if Luna ever got tired of taking care of her blanket and toy. Sarah looked to Luna, who was at that moment carefully adjusting her blanket's position to ensure the stuffed animal remained comfortable, and smiled. "Look at her face," Sarah suggested to the children. "Does she look tired or does she look content?" Luna's expression was indeed peaceful and satisfied as she completed her arrangement and settled down between her two charges. The children could see for themselves that Luna's caregiving brought her joy rather than burden, teaching them that love expressed through action could be a source of happiness rather than exhaustion. As spring progressed into summer, Sarah reflected on how Luna had unknowingly become a teacher and healer for their entire community. The dog's simple but profound devotion had touched countless lives, offering comfort to those experiencing grief, inspiration to those questioning their own capacity for love, and hope to those struggling with their own healing journeys. Luna's blanket had become more than a comfort object. It had become a symbol of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of maternal love. The first major test of Luna's resilience came during an unexpected house fire in the neighborhood. While Sarah's home was not directly affected, the smoke and commotion created chaos throughout the area, with fire trucks, police cars, and emergency personnel creating a cacophony of sirens and activity that continued for hours. Sarah had expected Luna to become anxious or distressed, but instead witnessed something remarkable. Luna's first instinct was not to seek comfort for herself, but to ensure her blanket and stuffed animal were moved to the safest possible location within the house. She carried each item separately to the basement, the area furthest from the street noise and smoke. Once her charges were secure, she positioned herself between them and the stairs, creating a protective barrier against any potential threats from above. Throughout the emergency, Luna remained calm and focused on her caregiving responsibilities. Sarah realized that Luna's maternal instincts actually provided her with purpose and stability during stressful situations, rather than adding to her anxiety. The dog's commitment to protecting her precious objects gave her a clear mission that helped her cope with chaos and uncertainty. The incident attracted the attention of emergency responders, several of whom had heard about Luna through the newspaper article. Firefighter Captain Rodriguez, who had been managing the scene, took a few minutes to observe Luna's behavior and was moved by what he witnessed. "I've seen a lot of people freeze up or panic during emergencies," he told Sarah later. "But this dog knew exactly what to do to keep her family safe. She's got better emergency instincts than most humans." This unexpected validation from a professional emergency responder gave Sarah new appreciation for Luna's protective behaviors. What some might have dismissed as unusual attachment was actually a sophisticated understanding of threat assessment and crisis management. Luna had developed practical skills for keeping her loved ones safe during dangerous situations. Summer brought its own challenges when Sarah's work schedule changed, requiring longer hours away from home. Luna had never been separated from her blanket and stuffed animal for extended periods, and Sarah worried about the impact of these changes. She installed a camera system to monitor Luna's behavior during her absence, expecting to find signs of anxiety or distress. Instead, the camera revealed that Luna had developed an elaborate routine for the hours when Sarah was away. She would begin each day by conducting a thorough security check of the house, ensuring all windows and doors were secure. Then she would move her blanket and stuffed animal to the location with the best view of the front door, positioning herself where she could simultaneously guard her charges and watch for Sarah's return. During the day, Luna maintained a schedule of activities that included regular position changes to follow the sun, periodic grooming sessions for both the blanket and toy, and brief play periods that never took her far from her protective duties. The footage showed a dog who was not anxiously waiting, but rather actively engaged in meaningful work that provided structure and purpose to her day. Dr. Foster reviewed the camera footage and was amazed by Luna's sophisticated time management and spatial awareness. "She's created a complete daily routine centered around caregiving," the behaviorist observed. "This level of organization and purposeful activity indicates a highly intelligent animal who has found meaningful work rather than simply engaging in comfort-seeking behavior." The summer also brought an unexpected visitor. Sarah's niece Rachel, a college student studying veterinary science, came to stay for 6 weeks while completing an internship at a local animal clinic. Rachel had heard about Luna's story, but was unprepared for the reality of living with such devoted maternal behavior. Initially, she found Luna's constant attention to the blanket and toy somewhat overwhelming. "It's like living with someone who's always working," Rachel confided to Sarah after her first week. "She never really relaxes or just hangs out like other dogs I've known. She's always checking on her blanket, moving it, grooming it, protecting it. I'm not sure if it's healthy for her to be so focused all the time." Sarah understood Rachel's concerns but encouraged her to observe more carefully before making judgments. Over the following weeks, Rachel began to notice the subtleties of Luna's behavior that revealed a different picture. The dog did relax during her grooming sessions with the blanket, when she would settle contentedly after arranging her charges perfectly, and in the peaceful moments when she would rest with her precious objects safely positioned nearby. Rachel's veterinary training provided new insights into Luna's behavior. She noticed that Luna's physical condition was excellent. Her coat was shiny, her weight was perfect, and her energy levels were appropriate for her age and breed. If this behavior was causing her stress, Rachel realized, we would see physical symptoms. But she's actually thriving. The turning point in Rachel's understanding came when she witnessed Luna's response to a neighborhood cat that had somehow entered the yard. Instead of chasing or barking at the intruder, Luna quickly moved her blanket and stuffed animal to a safe location, then calmly but firmly escorted the cat to the fence. Her problem-solving approach impressed Rachel, who recognized the intelligence and emotional regulation required for such measured responses. By the end of her stay, Rachel had become one of Luna's greatest advocates. Her final paper for veterinary school focused on Luna's case, exploring the therapeutic value of allowing rescued animals to maintain healthy coping mechanisms rather than trying to eliminate unusual behaviors. The paper received recognition from her professors and sparked discussions about more nuanced approaches to animal behavioral therapy. The late summer brought an unexpected crisis when Luna's original blanket began showing serious signs of wear. After nearly a year of constant care and handling, small tears had appeared in the fabric and the edges were beginning to fray. Sarah faced a difficult decision. Should she try to repair the blanket, replace it with something similar, or allow Luna to experience this loss as part of her healing process? Consulting with Dr. Foster, Sarah decided to attempt a careful repair first, using matching thread and gentle techniques to preserve as much of the original blanket as possible. Luna watched the repair process with intense interest, never straying far from the work area. Her ability to remain calm while her precious charge was temporarily out of her direct care demonstrated remarkable trust in Sarah and confidence in the repair process. The successful blanket repair seemed to deepen the bond between Sarah and Luna. The dog had witnessed Sarah taking careful, loving action to preserve something precious to her, and her behavior towards Sarah became even more trusting and inclusive. Luna began allowing Sarah to help with daily blanket positioning, and even occasionally left both the blanket and stuffed animal in Sarah's care during brief outings. As autumn approached again, marking nearly a full year since Luna's adoption, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey they had shared. The challenges they had faced, from emergency situations to schedule changes to the blanket repair crisis, had only strengthened Luna's confidence in her ability to protect and care for her precious charges. Rather than being obstacles to her healing, these difficulties had provided opportunities for Luna to demonstrate and develop her remarkable resilience. Luna's story was attracting attention from animal behaviorists and therapists around the country, with several requesting permission to include her case in research studies about animal grief and recovery. Sarah carefully considered each request, always prioritizing Luna's well-being and comfort while recognizing the potential for her story to help other animals and their families facing similar challenges. The dog who had arrived at Sarah's home with nothing but a worn blanket and a heart full of love had grown into a confident, purposeful animal whose capacity for care extended far beyond her original comfort objects. Luna had proven that healing didn't require abandoning the past but could instead involve transforming loss into love, trauma into tenderness, and grief into grace. 2 years after Luna's adoption, her story had evolved into something neither Sarah nor the dog herself could have anticipated. What began as one dog's unique way of coping with loss had grown into a movement that touched lives across multiple communities. Luna's gentle devotion to her blanket and stuffed animal had inspired the creation of a therapy program called Comfort Companions, where rescued animals with their own coping mechanisms visited hospitals, nursing homes, and grief counseling centers. The program began when Dr. Williams, the grief counselor who had first met Luna, approached Sarah with an ambitious proposal. Several of her clients had expressed interest in meeting Luna again, and Dr. Williams believed that regular visits from Luna and other animals with similar stories could provide ongoing comfort to people working through their own losses. Sarah was initially hesitant, worried about the stress such visits might place on Luna, but agreed to a trial period with careful monitoring. Luna's first official therapy visit was to the children's wing of Riverside General Hospital, where young patients dealing with serious illnesses often struggled with fear and separation from their families. Sarah carefully prepared for the visit, ensuring Luna's blanket and stuffed animal were freshly cleaned and that the hospital environment would be calm and controlled. Luna seemed to sense the importance of the occasion, carrying herself with particular dignity as they entered the hospital. The response from the children was immediate and powerful. 8-year-old Mia, who had been withdrawn and uncommunicative since beginning cancer treatment, watched Luna carefully arrange her blanket and position her stuffed animal with complete fascination. When Luna settled down to rest between her 2 charges, Mia whispered to her mother, "The doggie is taking care of her babies like you take care of me." This observation sparked the first real conversation Mia had initiated since her diagnosis, opening doors for her medical team to better understand and address her emotional needs. Luna's visible demonstration of care and protection provided a concrete example that helped Mia articulate her own need for security and comfort during her treatment. Word of Luna's impact spread quickly through the hospital, and soon other departments were requesting visits. The oncology wing, where adult patients faced their own battles with life-threatening illnesses, found particular comfort in Luna's story. Many patients saw parallels between Luna's dedication to caring for her precious objects and their own determination. to protect and nurture what mattered most to them during difficult times. Sarah documented each visit carefully, noting Luna's behavior and the responses of the people they met. The dog's routine never varied. She would enter each new space, assess the environment for safety, position her blanket and stuffed animal securely, then settle into her protective stance. Her calm confidence in unfamiliar environments seemed to provide reassurance to people who were themselves dealing with uncertainty and fear. The therapy program expanded to include the Sunset Manor nursing home, where elderly residents often struggled with memories of their own losses and separations. Luna's visits became weekly events that residents looked forward to eagerly. Many of the older adults had experienced the loss of children, spouses, or beloved pets, and Luna's continued devotion to her charges resonated deeply with their own experiences of enduring love. Eleanor Jenkins, a 92-year-old resident who had lost her son in the Vietnam War 50 years earlier, formed a particularly strong connection with Luna. During visits, Eleanor would sit beside Luna and share stories about her son while gently stroking the dog's fur. "She understands," Eleanor would tell the staff. "She knows what it means to keep loving someone even when they're not here anymore." These interactions provided therapeutic value for both Luna and the people she visited. The dog seemed to thrive on having her caregiving behavior appreciated and understood, while the residents found comfort in witnessing such pure, uncomplicated devotion. Luna's example helped many people feel less alone in their own experiences of continuing to love and remember those they had lost. The program's success attracted attention from veterinary schools and animal therapy organizations nationwide. Dr. Foster published a comprehensive study of Luna's case, documenting how her unusual coping mechanism had been successfully channeled into meaningful therapy work. The study challenged traditional approaches to animal behavioral modification, suggesting that some unusual behaviors might be better supported and directed rather than eliminated. Sarah received requests from animal shelters across the country, asking for guidance on identifying and nurturing other animals who might benefit from a similar approach. She developed a training manual called Recognizing Resilience, which helped shelter workers and adopters understand when unusual animal behaviors might represent healthy coping mechanisms rather than problems requiring correction. Luna's story also inspired the creation of the Comfort Object program at the original shelter where Sarah had found her. The program encouraged adopters to allow rescued animals to keep any objects they had formed attachments to, recognizing that these items might serve important emotional functions during the transition to new homes. Several successful adoptions resulted from this policy change, as families came to appreciate the depth of emotion and capacity for care that such attachments demonstrated. As Luna entered her 6th year of life, her blanket and stuffed animal remained central to her daily routine, but her protective circle had expanded to include Sarah and the regular visitors to their home. She had become a master at assessing new people and situations, quickly determining whether newcomers posed any threat to her precious charges or might instead become part of her extended family. The arrival of a foster kitten named Whiskers provided a new test of Luna's adaptability. The tiny orange tabby had been orphaned at just 3 weeks old and required round-the-clock care. Sarah worried about how Luna would react to this disruption of her established routines. But Luna's response exceeded all expectations. The dog immediately recognized Whiskers as a vulnerable creature requiring protection and gradually incorporated the kitten into her circle of care. She would position herself between Whiskers and any potential dangers, just as she did with her blanket and stuffed animal. When Whiskers was sleeping, Luna would arrange her blanket to create a warm, sheltered space for the kitten to rest safely. This expansion of Luna's protective instincts to include a living creature marked a significant milestone in her emotional journey. She was demonstrating that her capacity for care could extend beyond symbolic objects to encompass actual vulnerable beings who needed her protection. The maternal behaviors that had been redirected toward inanimate objects were now being expressed in their original form toward a creature who truly benefited from her attention. Dr. Foster visited to observe this new development and was moved to tears by what she witnessed. Luna's gentle interaction with Whiskers, combined with her continued devotion to her blanket and stuffed animal, represented the full flowering of her healing process. She had not abandoned her original coping mechanisms, but had instead built upon them to create an even richer capacity for love and care. As winter approached once again, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey that had begun with a traumatized dog clutching a worn blanket in a shelter kennel. Luna had not only healed from her own losses, but had become a source of healing and inspiration for countless others. Her story proved that recovery didn't require forgetting the past or abandoning what brought comfort, but could instead involve expanding one's capacity for love and finding new ways to express care and devotion. The blanket that had once represented loss had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the transformative power of love. Luna's daily acts of tenderness toward her precious objects had rippled outward to touch hundreds of lives, proving that even the smallest gestures of care could have profound and lasting impact. In learning to honor and support Luna's unique way of healing, Sarah had discovered truths about love, loss, and recovery that extended far beyond the relationship between one woman and her remarkable dog. Luna's legacy was not just her own healing, but the healing she had facilitated in others, the understanding she had fostered about different forms of love and care, and the hope she had provided to those who believed that their own capacity for love had been diminished by loss. Her story continued to unfold each day, written in small acts of devotion that proved love never truly ends. It simply finds new ways to express itself in the world.